Let's talk about the books that I've read in August. Why, hello there, my name's Leah. Welcome back to the channel, and today we will talk about the books that I've read in August. I know it's October, yeah, I know. I just didn't have time to film this video earlier, so here we are. I hope you're still interested in what I've read in August. It's been a while since I've read them now, so I don't really remember much. So that could be a problem, but we will see. These are also not all of the books that I've read. A lot of them were digital copies or books that I borrowed and just don't own myself. So let's start with those first. I've read the manhwa Starving Anonymous, Volume 4, Volume 5, Volume 6, and Volume 7. So yeah, I just wanted to finish the series, see how it all turns out, and well, how the ending will be in this very horrific and, let's say, suspenseful manhwa. So I've talked about it a lot, but if you don't know what it's about, it's a horror manhwa for sure, about a boy who is waking up in a facility where there is some sinister stuff going on, some experiments going on. Well, it's a factory for something, let's say that. It does have a supernatural aspect as well, which was really interesting. And yeah, the story is just about this boy and a group of friends, I would say, that he later meets, and them trying to escape this facility, and also finding out what it is really about, why these people are doing what they are doing in there. And yeah, it just gets very interesting. Every volume reads very different from each other. There's always something new that's focused on, either about a backstory of a character or just a new interesting twist about what's going on in this facility. So it was very interesting to read it. It did get a little boring towards the end. It dragged a little. So yeah, wasn't a fan of the later volumes, but the ending was very good again. And I found out that there's also a spin-off series or sequel series, whatever, that takes place after the events of Starving Anonymous. So yeah, I'll check that out in the future for sure. I'm really intrigued about what this will be about. But yeah, it was very interesting for sure. I would recommend it. It is very gross, so if you don't like that at all, maybe don't pick this up, because it does focus a lot about just gross stuff. But there's also a plot in it and character stuff going on. So yeah, very solid read. I gave them very mixed ratings. Like volume 4 got 4 stars, really enjoyed that, and then 5 only got 2.5 out of 5 stars. Volume 6 got 3 stars. Volume 7 3.5 again. So very mixed ratings. And what else did I read that I can't show you? Oh yeah, I've read another Ice Planet Barbarians book. That one was called By Barbarian's Mate. I have no idea which book in the series it is. Like maybe book 6? I really don't know. Like the titles don't really give you any idea about which part of the series you're in, and I decided to DNF the whole series. Not the book, I finished Barbarian's Mate, but I think it's just too repetitive for me at this point, and there's just not really a plot in it that would make me more interested in the series. It's just about the Romans, and they all feel the same. I can't even tell you what the characters from this book were named or what the book really was about now. Like, it's been only over a month since I've read it, and I don't remember anything. Frankly, I think it was about Josie, maybe, like the last female human left that has not got a mate, an alien mate in that series, and now she does, and they are all happy and pregnant, and yeah, it's just like every single other book in the series. I was hoping for more plots since she's the last one, but yeah, no, there was nothing new for me in it, unfortunately. I was quite excited about the series when I just started it. Like, the first book was phenomenal, the third book I liked as well, the others were just okay. I gave this book 2.5 out of 5 stars. Like, there's nothing that I hated, it's just nothing new. So maybe I'll check out a different series by the author that does not take place in that universe. I know there's a fantasy series that she wrote which doesn't have like 50 books in the series, it's just 5 or something, so yeah, maybe I'll check that out because that sounded interesting. But yeah, that was my Iceplant Barbarian experience phase, whatever. It's over now, and yeah, I mean, if you like romance and alien human romance, you might love the series more than I do. I'm more of a plot reader, so yeah, it's just not for me anymore. But like, I enjoyed my time with these books. I really don't have the time anymore to spend reading books that I don't really love. If we're talking about long series, I just don't want to push through so many books if I'm not really loving it. So yeah, then I also read one of my traveling book projects, you could say, over on Discord. Me and a few other people are like giving each other secret books that we have to read and annotate, and then we will get the book to the next person so that everyone in the group has read it, and then the person who sent it gets it back at the end with all the annotations from us in it. That has been very fun so far, and in August I've read 2 books from that project. So first of was Aurora Rising. It's the first book in a YA science fiction series, which is very much action-packed and space opera-like, which are 2 things that I just personally do not enjoy very much. But yeah, we have a lot of characters in it. We learn a lot about them through the adventurous journey and their battles and missions, and it wasn't a bad book. I gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars, which might be very unpopular since many people love these books, but yeah, it just wasn't for me. It wasn't bad at all, just not for me. That's basically it. I didn't really like the characters, didn't like the focus on the action stuff and the spy mission vibes. That's just not something I gravitate towards, so yeah. The end was interesting in the sense of, like, the characters were on a planet which was very interesting. It felt like even a horror book at this point for just a few pages, so really enjoyed that. So I will not continue with this series, but again, nothing too bad about it, just a very neutral feeling. And then the other book that I've read for this traveling book project is in this stack that you can see, so we will talk about it later on. And since I have a copy of it, you can already tell that I enjoyed it much more, because this is a copy that I bought after reading the borrowed copy, just because I had to have it in my collection as well. But yeah, these should be all the books that I don't have a physical copy of, so let's start with this stack of books. So first up, we have, a manga, which is a compendium or volume of the first few, I don't know what are these called, like the first few manga issues or something like that, which is just collected in this large book. We have like 5 of these editions. This is number 1, and this is The Girl from the Other Side, and I really loved it. It's the first book that I've read in August, I think, because I started it in July but finished it in August, and yeah, really loved it. I really need to continue with the series. I haven't done that so far because I don't have the second edition yet, and I just don't want to read it online because these pictures are so beautiful in person. I really want to experience it that way. But yeah, how to summarize what this one is about? I think many of you already know what this one's about because it's a very well-known manga that I just haven't read so far. It's again quite dark and very atmospheric in my opinion, and also slow-paced, but I really like that, and it has beautiful art, which is one of the most important things for me when picking up a manga. If I don't like the art style, I typically won't enjoy the story. So yeah, this one is very beautiful, and it follows the girl from the cover who is living with this demon-like creature, and it pretty much just follows their everyday life, and then the reader gets snippets from what is going on in the world, because it's very much apocalypse-like, post-apocalyptic, I would say, where something happened that normal human beings transformed into these monster-looking like creatures. Like, they still can have their own free will. It's not like they are zombies and they can talk, but pretty much like a vampire, they just don't feel the need anymore to eat anything or sleep. And yeah, I think these were the bad things, and they all feel like they are very ugly now, and the normal humans despise those monsters and try to kill all of them, because from a single touch you can get this, I don't want to say virus, but you will turn into this creature as well. So very much feared beings, and these two characters live in isolation in a abandoned village, I think. And the girl is waiting for her aunt, I think, to return to her. And yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but the world expands much more over the course of this deluxe edition. Like, we really start in just this one house where she lives, then the whole village, the neighboring villages, the forest, different towns, and we learn about the law. Like, there's a book in the story that the girl reads often, which talks about just more backstory and lore, and I just really loved it. There's not a lot of plot in it, but it has action, it has atmosphere, it has cute moments, it has emotional moments in it, different perspectives. It talks about like moral questions like life and death, good and bad, and so on. And yeah, I just think it was perfect. It's one of my favorite mangas now for sure. Gave it 5 out of 5 stars without a doubt, and it's my favorite cover of the month as well. And just to show you what the art looks like, so these are a few examples. It's just very minimalistic in some way, but there's also a lot of details to pick up on. And then we also have at the start of every, I don't know, chapter, whatever they are called, colored pictures as well. So highly recommend that if you have not read it for some reason. Next up is the 4th out of 5 books in the Percy Jackson and the Olympians series, right? So this is the Battle of the Labyrinth, and I really need to finish that series by reading the 5th book now in October, because the series will be live in just a few months, right? I think. I don't remember. But I really wanted to reread the whole series prior to the Disney adaptation. So yeah, this is book number 4. I really love the whole series. Read it in my childhood the first time, and now I'm rereading it for the first time again, and I think I gave all of them like 4 stars, which is a very good rating for me. Like, I don't give out 5 stars very easily, so yeah, there's that. I'm just checking my rating for it. Oh wait, I gave it even 4.5 out of 5 stars, so yeah, really enjoyed this one. I just love all the mythology aspects in it, and every single book has new ones, and it's just very fun. I love the characters, I love the story, and I don't know what else to say without spoiling it. Like, in this one we have obviously a retelling kind of the Minotaur and Daedalus and his son, so that's in there. And it's just very interesting how Rick Riordan is using these very well-known myths and mythological beings and twists them into something of his own creation. So it's just very refreshing. Even if you know the myth in every detail, this will feel new for you, and yeah, it's just fun to pick up on all the little mythological aspects that you might not notice as a child when reading this, or as someone who's just not as well acquainted with myths, Greek myths in general. So yeah, don't know what else to say. Love that one. Excited to read the next book in the series, and to finally read something else by Rick Riordan, because I never really read anything else, but I own like Heroes of the Olympians and Kane Chronicles and his new one, which takes place like underwater or something like that. And there's also something about Norse mythology, right? Like, I own all of these, but I've never read them. I've only read the first book in the Kane Chronicles series, and I think that's it. So I'm really excited to read something new. although this feels like reading it for the first time in many aspects as well, because I just don't have a good memory. So it feels like I'm reading them for the first time, which is so exciting. Then next up, I've also read Legendary by Stephanie Garber, which is the second book in the Caraval trilogy, and this one picks right up where the first book ended, I would say. It still follows our main characters, and they go on a different adventure now. To be honest, I quite forgot a lot about the story in this one, and I don't know why. Like, I didn't love the story, so maybe that's the reason. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, which is just, it was okay. It's good enough to keep it in my collection, but just barely. I already thought that I might not enjoy this one as much, because I heard like the first book in the series is the best one, and I didn't really love the first one either, so yeah. It's just a little bit too childish for me and not serious enough. Like, this has such a good premise and has great ideas and interesting characters, but it just didn't really feel that atmospheric and magical as I wanted it to be. So it's just a fun, quirky series for in between now. And this has a lot of stuff about tarot cards in it, I think, and magic having to do with that. I don't know if it's a spoiler, so I'm not going to say anything else, but I liked that part of the story, and I'm interested to see how this is all wrapping up in the finale. That's just funny because the third book is called Finale, and it's the finale of the series, so yeah, very fun. And yeah, I also have a different series by the author here, which I'm also very interested in. I hope it's a bit less YA. I just don't like the romance in that series. Maybe that's my issue. And whenever it's about the romance and the relationships, the characters just act very childish, which I'm not a fan of. So yeah, I don't really remember much, I'm sorry. But it's not like I hated it. 3 stars is, it was okay. There were some things that I didn't like, but there were also a lot of things that I did enjoy. I also liked the prince. He was a prince, right? In Legendary. I hope that he is more often featured in the third book. I think he's my favorite character now. Very much morally grey, but very interesting. Loved him. So that's another positive aspect for that story. Okay, next up is Gleam by Raven Kennedy, which is the third book in the Plated Prisoner series, and this is the Fairy Loot edition. I hope they will bring out book 4 and 5 soon. And this is my favorite book in the series. Yes! I was so worried because everyone says like the third book is the best one, and I was so scared to hate it, but no, it really is the best one. I love this one. I think I gave it 5 stars. Yeah, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Such a good book. My favorite book out of all of them for the whole month. The Girl from the Other Side came very close, but Gleam just, oh my god, I loved every single page, and I got emotionally attached to the main character. Like, I cried at one point. It was so sad to see her going through all the horrible stuff in this book. Oh jeez. And the fantasy aspects are just so interesting. Like, her magic, her abilities, it's so cool. And she finally gets to do things that I was waiting for since book 1, and it's just so epic at the end of the book. Like, I really want to pick up book 4, but I just want to read it physically, kind of, because I love it so much. If I love books, I don't want to read them as an ebook. It doesn't feel right. I don't know. Might be a very strange thing. But just waiting for the Fairy Loot edition, and if I get impatient, I will just read the Kindle edition because it's on Kindle Unlimited, so yeah, I might have to check that out. It was so good. There's also a drug in that book, which is just crazy. It was described so well. I can't spoil anything, but yeah, that was so good. And it also takes place more in the palace again. I didn't like the second book because it was like on the outside, about the characters just camping, and there was some pirate ship thingy stuff going on. Not really a fan about that, but more palace action here, and also different perspectives. The first book only follows our main character, I think Oren was her name, right? And then the second book also follows Queen Melina or something like that. So we have a different perspective in that. And in the third book, we also have the perspective of King Midas sometimes. And I think sometimes also that other king, the rotten one. I don't recall his name now. But yeah, mostly Oren and the Queen, I think. But I just love how more and more perspectives are introduced in that series. I hope book 4 has at least the same amount, if not even more, in them. I just love that. It feels like, well, I don't want to compare to it because it's not similar to it at all. The Game of Thrones has a lot of perspectives in it, and I just love that. To learn about characters that are in different places doing very much different things. Yeah, I just love that. And this did feel like that in some way. So yeah, I don't know. If you haven't picked it up, really try the series by Revan Kennedy. It's really so good. I love it so much. So don't know what else to say. Just very excited. And I also love the romance in it. Not an issue in there. Even though I don't typically like romances in like YA and new adult books. But this doesn't feel too YA. I mean, the characters act a little young-ish, sure, but the atmosphere is great, and it's just so epic and complex in some ways that I don't mind that too much. So, really big book, but it doesn't feel like a lot of pages. Like, it could have had even more pages. It's perfection. Yeah, right here. Alright, next up is The Lost Kingdom by Bernard Cornwell, which is the first book in the Lost Kingdom series, or Saxon Stories series, or something like that. It has a lot of different names, which is crazy. You might know it from the TV series, which is also called The Lost Kingdom, which I've already watched in full. Like, I've watched every 5 seasons. So yeah, I kind of knew what this book would be about going into it, but it's still very different from the series. It focuses a lot about the young Uhtred, and it has much more Norse mythology vibes in it than the series, I think. The series feels more like it's from the perspective of King Alfred and Athelflaed, which hasn't really shown up a lot in that book so far. I hope she'll be in there in the future books. This just it's good for sure. This was the other traveling book project books, whatever, that I had to buy for myself. I gave it like 4 stars, I think, 4 or 5. 4 out of 5, that's correct. So I really enjoy it, and it's quite short. All of the books in the series are quite short, like 300 pages long, more or less. And it does feel like a dense and atmospheric book for sure. It just focuses too much on the male perspectives for now for me, so I hope that changes in the future, and then I think this could be a very, very good series for me, like 5 stars. For now, it was just very entertaining and good, and I am very much excited for the next book in the series, so yeah, I hope it just gets better. I loved all the talk about pagan life and Christian life, and Uhtred being in between those two and growing up and learning about all the different cultures and meeting a lot of new characters. I also loved how Brida is portrayed in here, very different from the series. You kind of even like her in here. Like in the series, she's more of a villain, and here she's just a nice girl so far, who is doing, she's interested in witchy stuff and also music, so that was interesting. And Uhtred is also described very differently from the way that the actor portrays him in the series, so that was interesting as well. But yeah, I always love historical stuff, especially if it takes place in Great Britain, so yeah, that's perfect for that. And learning about what King Alfred does, like if you have some background knowledge about him, some of the things happening in here, just it's very interesting. It just mentioned very briefly some of the things that he accomplished in real life, so that was cool. There's also a little bit about Guthrun in here already, which is a very fascinating character in my opinion, and person in real life. So yeah, there was a little bit of about Ethelflaed. I hope to see more. And yeah, I didn't really say what this one was about, right? I just thought that everyone knew. Like, it's a Viking story taking place in, when does it start? Like 900s? Ooh, 800s? I don't know right now. It should say in here, right? 9th century Northumbria. So 800s. That's when it starts, and yeah, it's a time that is not often mentioned in historical fiction, so that was cool. And yeah, it's just your Viking stuff, although I don't like to call it Vikings, and the author mentioned it at the end as an afterword as well, but I never remember the other name for it. Like Norsemen, was that the better term for it? Whatever. It's a Viking story, British stuff, political stuff. We have some battles going on, some deaths, and just character growth, coming of age. I really love it, but I expected for it to be good, actually. So yeah, really excited to read more, and also read other things by Bernard Cornwell. Like, he has other standalones and series that I'm really interested in. I think they are all like historical. So yeah, that's just a genre that I really enjoy. So yeah, that was that. And then I also read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Jarros, which is the first book in the series, and I think it's okay. I didn't hate it, but I for sure didn't love it as well. And I'm contemplating about unhauling this edition. I just didn't so far, so yeah. I don't know. This is also the German edition, so maybe I just didn't like the translation, but I doubt it. Because at the beginning it was really good. Like, really, really good. I loved the beginning. The atmosphere was on point. I loved the character and how she has to go through the trials and learning about the dragons and her actual passion about doing things in the library thingy. A scribe, is that what it's called? That's what she wanted to do in the first place, but then she has to become a dragon rider, and I love the idea. The trials are very interesting at the beginning, and it's a dark story in terms of not everyone will survive it, and there are people dying like in front of her eyes, and I think it was written very, very well. Like, I was really, really shocked every time someone dies just in front of her. Never expected it, and almost cried, although these are strangers really. And I don't know, the second half was just boring. It was not for me. Very predictable. Didn't like the characters anymore, like not a single one really. And I predicted almost every twist, if not all of them. Nothing surprised me anymore. I was bored. I didn't care for any of the characters dying. Yeah, even the one where everyone is affected by, didn't care at all. And I mean, I like the dragons, yeah. Those are the characters that I did like. But that's like the only good thing at the end of the story. Just like the dragons and nothing else. I don't know. I didn't like the competition or trials or whatever anymore. It was kind of boring. It was just about battles, and I don't like that. No, not for me. I don't even know if I will continue with the series because I'm not really interested. The things that were mentioned at the end of the story, like in what kind of direction the future book will be going in, it just, I don't know, didn't interest me in any way. So yeah, I don't know what to do. I hope the Fairy Loot edition doesn't look beautiful, because I might be tempted to get it, but it would be stupid since I probably will never reread the story. So yeah, it was okay, just 3 stars. Kind of disappointed by it. So yeah, very, very beautiful book, but not quite for me. And then the last book that I've read is a short story collection, The End and Other Beginnings by Veronica Roth, which is a collection of science fiction short stories which are not connected to each other, but there are 2 stories at the end of the book which are set in a universe from a series by the author that I have not read. I think it's Carve the Mark. Like, 2 stories follow characters from that, and I think it's a problem if you don't know the book that they are set in, because I didn't really like those and I didn't really understand them either. So yeah, you might have to read Carve the Mark before picking up this short story collection. So these are the 6 stories featured in that collection, and as I've said, Armored Ones and The Transformationist are set in the Carve the Mark universe. The Transformationist was a revenge plot, I think, and Armored Ones followed a soldier, I think, who's venturing out into this grassland, and he's seeing some kind of creature, and they are called armored ones. That was interesting, felt very, very cool. But at the end of it, I didn't really understand what was going on because I just don't know the basis material, like the Carve the Mark book. And what else? Inertia, the very first story, was about a program. I don't know how to call it. Like, if someone is in the hospital and he knows he's going to die, they can message an individual who has to visit them and has to experience some of the memories that the dying person has selected from their own memory, and they are experiencing them together, and then the person visiting will always have that memory in her head. Like, I love the idea. That was very, very cool, but the story itself was just too long for what it was. The Spinners was about a bounty hunter, and this was in a world set in the future, I would say, on Earth, where aliens and humans coexist. So that was very, very interesting and cool. But yeah, the focus was on the bounty hunting, so very much action in there, and also thriller aspects for sure. But yeah, the idea was cool, and it was described very well, like all the alien creatures, how they look like and how they act. And there was also like some kind of parasite, and that was quite gross, but yeah, liked that for sure in the story. Then the next story right here is my favorite story in the whole collection for sure. It's also about music and about a very gifted character who attends this scientific musical school where she learns to perfect her skills, because in this world they discovered something about people who can hear much differently than normal human beings for the purpose of, well, there are two things, like it's very matrix, like where you have a red pill and a black pill in that case, I think. And with the red pill you would be able to hear the life song of a person, and for the black pill you would hear the death song. So whenever someone is close to dying, it gets much louder for you, and every single person has a different song for them, which is very unique. And I just love the idea. It was very, very, very cool, and all the school stuff could have been expanded more upon. Could have been like much longer than it was in here. Like a whole novel would be so cool about that, and also about the stuff that happens after the story ends would be very, very interesting. And then Wim and Weiger, I don't really remember much about that. It was about a group of girls who watched a superhero movie, and I don't know, it was about fan fiction or fan art and just superhero stuff. I don't know, don't remember much, but I know that I didn't really like that one. So a very mixed short story collection, but there were a few very good stories in there for sure. So yeah, these are all the books. So yeah, that's my wrap up for August. I'm really glad that I'm done with that now. And yeah, really have to film my September wrap up as well, so that I don't have that problem again in November. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about any of the books, if you've read any of those. And yeah, I'll see you in my next video. So until then, take care, happy reading, bye.